7 o'clock. Call meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Synergy with a knife. Sure. All right, we will start with a public hearing. Hold a public hearing to receive public comment on the results of the Phase 2 Treadway Apartments cost-benefit analysis and granting of exemption from ad valorem taxes. Do I have a motion to call a public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Motion Deaton, second Shute, that we call a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
All right.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Tyler Ellsworth with the Kutak Rock Law Firm, City's Bond Counsel. I just have a couple remarks regarding the cost-benefit analysis that we're looking at this evening. So this is Phase 2 of the Treadway Apartments. This is at the southwest edge of the Grotto development. Phase 2 is 162 units, and because there's a property tax abatement at issue here, we're required to prepare an analysis of the costs and the benefits on each of the affected taxing entities, including the city, including the county, including the state of Kansas. The cost-benefit analysis was included in the agenda packet. I'm not going to go through it line by line, but suffice it to say that the benefit to cost ratio came back positive for each of the jurisdictions that we looked at. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think that sums it up.
All right. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Would like to come forward? No one coming forward. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion McNear, second Deaton, we close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Public hearing is closed. Move to public comments. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of the public hearing. If you wish to come forward, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. There is a 5-minute time clock on your left. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and the podium is now open.
Yes, my name is Brandon Mitchell. I'm not going to give my address. You can ask the police. They know my address. I'm live on the internet. I don't want to dox myself. I would like... Can I start now?
I'm sorry, can you state your address, please?
I'm not stating my address. Fourth Amendment.
Okay. Okay. You have 5 minutes.
All right, Todd Winters. I've been requesting your oath of office for the last 2 months, and they've been telling me that it's personal information. And I don't understand how your oath of office that you took to the people is personal. It says, Kansas Statute 45221, Section 4. Personal records, performance ratings, and individually identifiable records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment, except that this exemption shall not apply to the names, positions, salaries, actual compensation, employment contracts, employment-related contracts, or agreements. Your oath is an agreement. That's all I would like to say.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward?
My name is Steve Zaladek. I will give you my address. I'm the property owner at 636 East Willow. I would like to commend the council, city administrator, police department, everybody here. I thought that was awesome to start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. My issue is this, and I'm not a real smart man, but I'm trying to figure out how to solve a problem. And I don't know if it comes from the council, if it comes from the mayor, if it comes from the city administrator, but it seems that the police department has their hands handcuffed. And here's the issue. I want to pass around a couple photos that I took on May 24th. And it happens to be an abandoned vehicle. And it's my understanding that an abandoned vehicle, after 3 days, should be cited, the possibility to be towed. Well, this vehicle, as of today, had set the owner or whoever is driving the vehicle just moved it again today. So they tend to move it every couple weeks to a different location. This location happens to be Cedar and White Street. So I'll just pass them around. We'll start on one side. You can take a look at it. This vehicle has not been registered since May of 23. It has an unregistered, unlicensed trailer attached to it. And for some odd reason, I cannot get anyone to cite this vehicle. And in my quest to do so, found out that the owner of the vehicle is deceased. There happens to be an individual residing in the townhomes that has possession of the vehicle. Periodically moves the vehicle to avoid having it towed. So my question is, what constitutes an abandoned vehicle? What will give the police department the authority to go ahead and have it towed? And I don't know if the vehicle is in the possession of an individual who is a descendant of the deceased, if they stole the vehicle and it hasn't been reported. But we allow that vehicle to be driven on the public highways without insurance, without being registered, and the trailer not being licensed, registered, and attached. So I know it's not a codes violation. Tori is tired of listening to me. The police department has not refused, they have been reluctant to tag it because a citation is going to be issued to a deceased individual. So I'm just asking either the council, the city administrator, or the mayor. Let's get the vehicle off the road, have it towed. And if the guy really wants it, he'll get it registered and he'll do it properly. And again, thanks for the Pledge of Allegiance. That was good. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. We'll probably bring that up at the end of the meeting. We'll discuss that.
I'd appreciate it.
Further comments? All right. Being said, we'll move to consent agenda. Is there an item on the consent agenda council would like to remove? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Shoot, second Deaton. We approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Consent agenda passes. No planning and zoning consent, no committee recommendations, and no old business. Move to new business. New business item number 1, consider adopting a resolution declaring the intent of the city to issue industrial revenue bonds for the purpose of financing the acquisition, construction, and equipping of a multifamily apartment project within the city. New Trails Multifamily Phase 2.
This agenda item is related to the public hearing that we had earlier tonight. As was mentioned at that public hearing, the cost-benefit analysis shows that this was in the benefit of every jurisdiction involved. This is related to a development agreement that the city currently has going on with Grata. So it's staff's recommendation to adopt a resolution declaring the intent of the city to issue industrial revenue bonds for the purpose of financing the acquisition, construction, and equipping of a multifamily apartment within the city.
Thank you. And we've already had a public hearing on this item, so we'll move to council questions, comments.
I only have one. Is there any sort of validation that happens on the analysis, in the assumptions that are made in the analysis? After the fact, I'm assuming we've done something like this in the past.
Yes, staff looks at it, bond council looks at it, and we compare it to previous ones that we've done in the past.
And anything like after the fact to say, oh yeah, this assumption that we made or this number that we used maybe was a little high or a little low, or in this case it seemed right in line, no flags that popped out to you guys.
There's some back and forth that usually happens on these a little bit where we tend to question a lot of assumptions each time around. We got it to the point where we agree with the assumptions and we think it's where it needs to be.
Just reading through the proposal and the numbers, I think the same place Mark was at. There was one assumption that kind of really stood out to me, and that was in year 3. Year 2, they were at 75% occupancy. Year 3, they're at 95% occupancy. That seems a bit aggressive. If they don't meet those targets, what happens to the rest of the performance?
I can speak to that, I think, and also a representative from the developers here in case they care to answer that question. But I think from the city's perspective, really, while there are sales tax generation and transient guest tax generation from those levels of occupancy that really drive things, I think at the end of the day, this is more than anything in addition to the property tax base of the city, and that still holds true whether or not they're at 85% occupancy, 95% occupancy, 55%. The property tax value is still the same, and I think that anecdotally, it's probably accurate to say that they might be closer to 100% occupancy than 95% at the third year, but I would defer that to the developer's representative here. I think they've had tremendous success in lease up of the first phase of these apartments, and I would expect something similar for the second phase as well.
So just so I understand, what you're telling, as I understand what you're saying, is that this is based on property tax value and the assessments that go with that, and the value of the property is based on occupancy. Is that correct?
Value of the property is not based on occupancy.
Property the value is the property the value.
Okay. So
Or the other way.
why was it percentage of occupancy? I'm new to the council.
Sure.
And I just wanted to understand.
That's more of a back and forth between us and the developer. Obviously, we want it to be built, not sit there empty. So we can push that as our development agreement, and then of course, they have to be willing to say, hey, we think we can meet those numbers. So it's a little bit of back and forth, and then it's kind of them saying, hey, we think we can do this, it'll be a good project.
I just was confused.
Yeah, no, that's kind of how that goes, though.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the questions.
Tyler, I love the light reading, though. I really do.
I do what I can.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know I do.
My question is probably less about this particular portion, although we will be considering and voting on this, obviously, it's for the IRPs. My concern really more is around the entire general aspect of this project. I think that the development agreement also stipulated that there would be a certain amount of commercial development on this property as well, and those benchmarks they've struggled to meet those benchmarks. And so my question is that, are they aware about those aspects of the development agreement that have not yet been satisfied? And what is the time not be opening up a can of worms here that probably is not part of this discussion, but.
It's not, but I can speak briefly to that.
Yeah.
So this is kind of somewhat expected, where they expect the multifamily to build out first, to have basically basically retail follows rooftops. So that's what they're kind of focused on right now, this phase two. In the final phase of the apartments, we would expect the commercial to start moving.
I know that this phase two is actually, I think, a year ahead, because they had such success with the first phase. But I would love to see a little bit more movement on the commercial side.
So there were no general commercial milestones
Okay.
in the development agreement. The milestones were associated with the CID and the time that they had to generate
Correct.
revenue through a CID.
Mhm.
So there were no, you have to have this much commercial by 24, this much by 25. It's all tied to the CID and revenue
Yeah.
generation.
And I believe we've already had a discussion about that CID and delaying those
Right.
those
Because of the-
timelines. Yeah,
Right, because of the pandemic, yes.
correct.
But the way that's structured, I mean, that's gonna kind of light a fire under the developer because they want to get reimbursed and they need to have that CID in place, so.
Yeah. I just don't want that to fall off the radar. So.
Do you have a new, motion for new business item number 1?
So moved.
Second.
Motion shoot, second deed. We adopt resolution 2142, a resolution declaring the intent of the city of Gardner, Kansas to issue industrial revenue bonds taxable under federal law in the principal amount not to exceed $29 million for the purpose of financing the acquisition, construction, and equipping of a multifamily apartment project within the city, New Trails Multifamily Phase 2. City Clerk?
Councilmember Deaton? Yes. Councilmember Ween?
Yes.
Councilmember Shute?
Yes.
Councilmember McNair? Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Resolution 2142 passes. New business item number 2, consider approving an ordinance levying and assessing special assessments on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land liable for such special assessments to pay the cost of improvements in the city of Gardner, Kansas, as authorized by resolution number 2140 of the city, Lone Star Prairie Special Benefit District.
The developer and property owner for the proposed Lone Star Prairie residential development has petitioned the city for the creation of a special benefit district for the construction of a lift station and an off-site sanitary sewer improvements. The attached ordinance levies $1.15 million for benefit district improvements for those improvements. If the construction costs are lower than estimated, the amount of the assessments against the property will be correspondingly reduced. The cost of the improvements will be assessed 100% against the improvement district and 0% against the city at large. Proposed term of the improvement district is 20 years. It is staff's recommendation that you adopt the proposed ordinance.
Thank you, Matt. Is there any public comment for new business item number 2? Council, questions? Do I have a motion for new business item number 2?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Baldwin. We adopt ordinance number 2799, levying and assessing special assessments on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land liable for such special assessments to pay the cost of improvements in the city of Gardner, Kansas, as authorized by resolution number 2140 of the city, Lone Star Prairie Special Benefit District. City Clerk?
Councilmember Ween?
Yes.
Councilmember Shute?
Yes.
Councilmember McNair?
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton? Yes.
Ordinance number 2799 passes. New business item number 3. Consider adopting an ordinance amending ordinance number 2687 of the city of Gardner, Kansas, and assessing the final cost of the improvements for the Hilltop Ridge Phase 1 off-site sanitary sewer and 167th Street Special Benefit District on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land in the city.
On December 21st, 2020, the City Council adopted ordinance number 2687, an ordinance levying and assessing maximum special assessments to pay for the cost of the off-site sewer on 167th Street for Hilltop Ridge residential development. The improvements have been completed and the final costs are now known. The proposed ordinance would amend that ordinance 2687 to finalize the special assessments based on the final cost of the improvements. The city plans to issue general obligation bonds this summer to provide permanent financing for the improvements. To help mitigate the risk to the city, the developer has provided a revocable letter of credit for the amount of $190,000. Letter of credit will expire after the completion of residences on 31 lots within the Hilltop Ridge first plat. The final cost for the improvements for the improvement district will be assessed 100% against the improvement district and 0% against the city at large. Proposed term of the improvement, or duration of the district is 20 years. Staff recommends that you adopt the proposed ordinance.
Thank you, Matt. Any public comment for new business item 3? Council, any questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion for new business item 3?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Shoot, second Deaton, that we adopt ordinance number 2800, an ordinance amending ordinance 2687 of the city of Gardner, Kansas, and assessing the final cost of the improvements for the Hilltop Ridge Phase 1 off-site sanitary sewer and 167th Street Special Benefit District on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of the land in the city. City Clerk?
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember McNair,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Weed.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2800 passes. And Matt, you get one more. New business item number 4, consider adopting an ordinance amending ordinance number 2688 of the city of Gardner, Kansas, and assessing the final cost of the improvements for the Hilltop Ridge Phase 1 First Plat Internal Improvements Special Benefit District on certain lots, pieces of parcels of land in the city.
So this ordinance is related to the second benefit district for the Hilltop Ridge residential development. The final costs are now known for the first plat internal improvements. So the purpose of this ordinance is to amend ordinance number 2688 to finalize the special assessments based upon the final cost of the improvements. The city plans to issue general obligation bonds for this as well this summer to provide permanent financing for the improvements. The final cost of the improvements for this improvement district is $535,000. The cost of the improvements will be assessed 100% against the improvement district and 0% against the city at large. The proposed term of the improvement is 20 years. It is staff's recommendation you adopt the ordinance.
Any public comment? New business item number 4. Council, any questions? Do I hear a motion? New business item number 4.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Ween. We adopt ordinance number 2801, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2688 of the city of Gardner, Kansas, and assessing the final cost of the improvements for the Hilltop Ridge Phase 1 First Plat Internal Improvements Special Benefit District on certain lots, pieces, and parcels of land in the city. City Clerk?
Councilmember McNair,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Weed,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2801 passes. New business item number 4. Consider an ordinance of the city of Gardner, Kansas, amending section 2.10.010 of the Gardner Municipal Code relating to the governing body.
Number 5.
Yes.
All right, so this time of year, we always look at the pay structure for employees, and one of the things that we participate in is a countywide survey to look at salaries for different positions and stuff. And one of the things I notice every year is that a lot of cities list mayor, governing body in that. And then I think last month there was an article about Prairie Village looking at their pay structure for governing body and mayor. So I had our new senior management analyst look at the different pay levels for governing body and mayor, and you can see that on the attachment. When we started looking at the proposal to change the pay, we determined that there was nothing in code as far as structure for how we do that. It looks like going back 10 years, there was a point where it was in the budget ordinance, but then it just dropped off and disappeared. So Ryan and Matt worked together to come up with amending the code so that we have a structure for changing the compensation for mayor and council members. So the first item, number 5, is just to make that change and adopt the ordinance to amend section 2.10.10 of the Gardner Municipal Code relating to the governing body.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any public comment? Business item number 5. Council, any questions on this part of it?
So does this just make it so it comes up every time we look at staff? Like, is the council and mayor added to the pay scale structure just so it is flagged to be looked at?
No, it can be brought up
At any
anytime.
Okay.
Yeah. It just gives us some structure and authority to do that.
Okay.
Well, and some transparency.
Yes.
Locked down and clear.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Do I hear a motion for new business item 5?
Second.
Motion McNear, second Deaton. We adopt ordinance number 2802, an ordinance amending section 2.10.10 of the Gardner Municipal Code relating to the governing body. City Clerk?
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember McNair.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2802 passes. New business item number 5, consider a resolution establishing compensation for the governing, 6. Thank you. Consider a resolution establishing compensation for the governing body pursuant to Gardner Municipal Code, section 2.10.010.
So in looking at this, the easiest way to, at least for me, to try to evaluate where compensation should be is population. And there's always some, mitigating factors as far as, the community wealth and things like that. I took Prairie Village and Edgerton out because they're outliers. Prairie Village pays, I believe, $1 on an annual basis, and Edgerton is, I think, the highest paid mayor in the state. So I took those two out because they kind of skewed the total. But if you look at the proposal for mayor, it lies within the range of, if you look at population, where it should be. And then the proposal for council pay, I did 40%. Overland Park does a straight 40%. So when you do the mayor's pay, it just automatically adjusts council member pay to 40%. Could be higher, could be lower, but honestly, 40% is on the low end of the range. It could be 45, 50% and still be in the mid-range.
Thank you, Jim. Is there public comment on new business item number 6? Council.
Anybody want to step on this landmine? I guess I should. We'd actually looked at compensation. Obviously, there was a municipality to the west that kind of forced her hand on this years ago. The reason why we had actually looked at this way back then was because we saw that given our population, the numbers were much lower than they should have been. We were around the Westwood type of pay scale, which is Westwood's a landlocked municipality. It's not really growing because it can't grow anywhere because they're obviously landlocked. And so, we were looking at Gardner. We're the fastest growing city in Kansas, or darn close to it. Again, still, we've been in the top 5, I think, for the entire time that I've been on this council. And we've had to address challenges that a lot of municipalities our size haven't had to deal with. And so, I kind of started beating the drum for a compensation review for years ago. And I'm glad to see it came up. I wasn't, before I saw the agenda, I wasn't expecting it, but I appreciate Todd kind of continuing to work that, take that ball. It's always weird for elected officials to be voting for a pay raise. But in this case, given the fact we haven't had a compensation adjustment in over a decade, and the fact that the city is now a third larger than it was then, I think it's more than warranted to, and I would have stopped it even at the mayor's salary, because I know that, the mayor's position has become much more complex and much more burdensome from the standpoint of just the work that has to be done. And obviously we have jobs, we have lives, but I wanted to make sure that at least the mayor's salary was adjusted to reflect, the work that he's doing, but also I'm not averse to looking at the council as well, because we've had a lot of stuff come across our plate, a lot of challenging decisions that needed to be made, and that takes time. It takes time out of all of our schedules to do that. So I'm going to be on the record as being in support of this, and thank you for pushing that ball forward. I think that this needed to happen, and this is, I know times are tough right now, but
Budgetary impact is negligible.
But this, yeah, the net impact is small, and it does reflect, I think, accurately what we do here at the city. So
I had a question about the resolution, because I know you had said that you had put it at 40%, but it says an amount. Should we change the resolution to read the mayor's salary and then council receives 40%, so that as the mayor's changes, the council just changes along with it? I did see that in an ordinance in Overland Park. I think it was Overland Park. And then also their ordinance had the mayor's salary, council gets 40%, council president gets 45%. I know that's not on here. I didn't know for the extra work that the council president does, an extra, it's 5%. Is that something that we want to discuss, not discuss? Well, you know, I'm not married to the idea. I'm also not opposed to it.
The change of the resolution is simple. We can just change it to annual compensation equal to 40% of the mayor's pay, or any percent you want. I know that Overland Park has, I don't know if it's council president, I thought it was mayor pro tem was 45.
but mayor pro tem in their system of government would basically be saying this council president. Or
Yeah.
They have a different structure.
Right.
So, yeah, this is not one you want to have to vote on.
It's weird.
It is. I guess the best way I can look at this is, you know, I came from a very small town, and at a small town, you know, just like we all, I'm sure everybody up here volunteers for different things. You see the benefit in volunteering, you try to do something, you know, you spend your time. But at a certain point, even in a small town, or definitely up here, you know, if you spend enough time doing something, and depending on the work, obviously, you know, you're going to even pay staff members out of church. Right? You still have volunteers, but you're going to pay somebody if they're spending time. And as the city has grown, you know, we have 400-page packets. We go through them. If you do your job, you're going to research stuff. It does take your time. For that reason, I'm not opposed to it. I think having the Casey, your suggestion. I mean, I hate to be the one to say it 'cause I'm in that position, but I think it makes sense, because then it does kind of solidify a little bit that it's not just a name, you know, the title. You know, regardless if it's me here or somebody else. So I guess I'm in support of. You know, obviously we need an adjustment regardless for people that are here in the future that aren't us. It shouldn't be looked at every 10 years, right? And part of that is because even if you know, look at it back as a little bit of the volunteer side of things, you still have to put yourself out there and take crap from people. And you still have to spend money to campaign. And it's going to cost you more every time to campaign because of inflation. So, you know, even some of this is just being reimbursed for what you did to get here, so that you can help make a decision on things. So, yeah, I'm open to it.
So is there consensus to?
Well,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I think the only issue I have with the president getting a higher rate is that you're not voted on by the people, you're voted on by us.
That makes sense.
And
that makes sense.
And ultimately, if you know the decision of the people is we don't like this decision that we make tonight, can all be gone in the next election cycle. And there's another one coming up in 18 months. So that's my 2 cents. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, 5% of that is not.
Well, and I only brought it up because I saw other municipalities do it, and I know the president has extra duties. Like I said, I'm not married to the idea. I get your point that it's not.
And to be honest, I mean, when you were appointed, when I was appointed, I didn't know what the compensation was. It was
Same. Neither did I.
I was joking about it that night, and then I understood the joke.
I don't think any of us did this for the money.
No.
There's not much, but that's okay. That's okay. That's not why we're here. I will say that because of this form of government, it's called a strong mayor form of mayor council. So I believe that's what it's referred to. Tell me if I'm wrong, city council. Yeah, we're more of a hybrid. We're more of a modified strong mayor council. And because of that, it is, yeah, well, it's supposedly strong. We kind of weakened the mayor a little bit, but over the last 15 years, we've significantly weakened the mayor.
Very synergistic.
So what happens is that because of the fact that we did somewhat weaken the mayor in the last 10 or 15 years, more of that responsibility has gone to the council president, council leadership. And so some of that work that, like for example, with our nominating committees and things like that, that work's been spread out amongst members of leadership. So it's not just I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that those positions. I'm not talking about the appointment process because obviously we have to have a council president regardless of whether they're appointed or elected. Okay, I think that position because of the additional duties of that position, because we've hybridized that strong mayor council form of government to add that to the president, I think it makes some sense to add some compensation, even if it's a small token amount. So.
I guess being the new guy on council, I was surprised when I had a little bit of money show up in my bank account. I served on planning commission for 6 years, and that's a non-compensated position. So I was kind of surprised. I thought, wow, okay. But I think that two things, Casey. I think the idea of tying this governing body to what the mayor is as a percentage makes a lot of sense. It greatly simplifies and streamlines that entire process. Now we don't have to deal with one number because everything else is a derivative of that. And also the idea that another 5% being paid to the council president, I think that's more than reasonable because the position of the council president and even the vice president, for that matter, spend a lot more time with the mayor in consultation. So it's a very minimal amount of compensation for the time we actually do it. But I think if that's any one of us, we did it because we want to serve our city. So that's all I got.
So is there consensus on the extra 5 for the president?
The financial impact on that is
$750 a year.
$750 a year, right?
For what? For the
that
5%?
Yeah.
No, it's $25 a month, $300. So it's 6,000.
5% of the mayor's.
It's 5%
Oh, mayors.
mayors.
Oh, yeah, you're right,
Because it'd be
750.
45, so
Yeah.
it'd be $750 a year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
don't
a
wanna say.
games. I don't think that's a game changer.
That's very
but-
reasonable. Mark, you're getting close to Capers money there, buddy.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of hearing a consensus.
Yeah.
I'd like
Consensus,
to
So,
make a
percent-
motion to approve this with the change of 45% to council president and 40% to council.
Second.
So motion D and second shoot. Do I still just read it as resolution number?
Yep.
Okay. We adopt resolution number 2143 with noted changes. A resolution establishing compensation for the governing body pursuant to Gardner Municipal Code section 2.10.010. Clerk?
Councilmember Dean,
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember McNair,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Yes.
Resolution 2143 passes. Okay, we'll move to council updates. Start the new face over there.
I just wanted to share, it's been nice that the weather's changed for us, so we're a little busier. Been out in the parks quite a bit, get an opportunity to make sure that we're providing good support to the parks people and keeping that a good place for everybody to be. We did offer a conditional offer of employment to a lateral transfer today, so hoping to hear back from her on that. And we got a couple other hiring candidates in the pipeline. I did not do that.
Sorry.
And also reference the public comments. I was aware of that vehicle and the concern with that. Our staff was working through that last week, but I'll make sure that we follow up tomorrow with that gentleman and make sure we get some resolution on what the situation is with the vehicle, okay?
Okay, appreciate that. And should maybe get a name and number, or did you get it? Or
I got it here.
Okay, perfect. Give some paperwork. All right, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. City clerk?
I have nothing tonight.
Finance Matt?
Nothing more.
City attorney?
Nothing for me.
Cons? Utilities? Parks and Rec?
Nothing for me. Nothing for me.
Didn't get it out. Kellen?
Nothing tonight.
Administrator?
Yeah, as we've teetered around 25,000 people in Gardner, you know, we have the obligation at some point to look at city of the first class. We've started to do that, list the pros and cons, and we'll consult with Ryan and bring something to council for consideration.
Is there a legal requirement, like, once we hit the number, which we wouldn't know that for some time?
Yeah, we can.
So the Kansas Budget Office every year on July 1st certifies the population of every city and state, and that is certified to the Secretary of State. And once we get those numbers, then there's no time frame in the statute which is attached to where you have to certify your population to the governor. Like you're supposed to do that. It doesn't mean all of our old laws are invalid. There's a case out there that says our existing laws stay in place, but you're supposed to transition after.
So, council, I get what you're saying. There was a question, I think, that was raised about, okay, which basis, the population basis, like whether or not it's a survey from the census or whether it's an actual census number that's done every 10 years, or how is that defined? Because there was a survey that came out about a week and a half ago that stated that Gardner had already passed 25. And so I was just wondering, because I had been asked that question, and I think there was some question around the dais here about that too.
So there, what the statute says is that it has to be, it cannot be census data, which is what the budget office uses, or another survey prescribed by state or federal statute.
So that would include the
It's the only one that Kansas uses that is the budget office uses census data.
okay, so that answers the question.
So we still have several years technically.
No.
The survey.
There's annual census data that's
Right.
published in the budget.
Yeah,
But it's kind of like when she calls a special session, we can sit on this and wait on it for 6 years.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
okay. I know that we'll have to look at all of our current charter ordinances, because there were ordinances that we chartered out of because of the fact they were dependent on the class of the city. So, right now, all those charter ordinances are drafted as a city of the second class, so I'm assuming that a lot of those will have to be resubmitted as a different, at some point.
But we'll have to reassess that. I mean, the reality of home rule in Kansas is when you're talking about changing from city of first class, second class, third class, anytime there's a difference in the law between the different classes of city, a city can exercise home rule to do whatever it wants.
Yeah, that's your charter ordinances.
So, yes, we home ruled out of the city of second class statutes to the extent that there is an equivalent statute for the city of first class statutes. We would have to revisit that.
Yeah.
And
But with the city of the first class, there is one item that we can't home rule out of, and that is wards.
I have to look at that. I haven't been asked to look at that yet.
Yeah, that we need to get that clarified, because if there is going to be a ward system in the city, then that requires another whole analysis, because now we're talking about appointing or electing council members by geographic area, evenly spaced amongst population, and potentially at-large seat or seats. So I just wanted to bring that up to
I mean,
folks
I
too.
am aware that some cities in the first class have kind of like hybrid systems. They
Yeah.
have some boards, some at large.
Mhm.
So
Olathe is that way. Olathe is that way.
Yeah.
Casey is
I think they have, Olathe has 7 seats, 5 of them are regular seats, and 2 of them are at large, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, yeah. So we got work to do.
Yes.
So we've started to have some internal discussions on the infrastructure special sales tax and the timing of an election if we choose to do that. Matt reached out to the Johnson County Election Office, and they have some requests with regards to partnering with other municipalities if it's a special election. We could potentially do general election, but we're not sure if that'll cut the current tax a year short. So we're trying to work through those issues, but it's gonna sneak up on us pretty quick. We're less than a year away from needing to do an election if we choose to do that, so we're working on that. And we'll bring something to council soon.
That be maybe a work session item?
Oh, yeah. Have to.
Yeah, we can do that. Either or.
I think a public work session would, and maybe some request for input would be a very strong thing to do.
Technically, all of our work sessions are public. Unfortunately, people don't show up.
I understand that, but we would advertise this, obviously, and get as many people there as possible. That's part of transparency. We want folks to give us their thoughts.
Well, one of the issues is gonna be, competing interests with other jurisdictions and what they're
Yep.
doing. And, so we have to take that into consideration as well.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Nair.
I heard just some very positive comments from people as to how the assessment on the wind damage we had the other night come back to me that it had been termed an EF1 tornado. And just wanted to put a shout out to public safety and city staff for everything they've done to make that awesome. Actually, I got that part-time cashier at Home Depot, and one of the guys that came through my cashier line, and then he said, "Man, those guys down there are really something." And I just felt really proud to be a member of this governing body and a member of the community. Thank you, awesome ladies. Thank you.
Councilman Ware.
Yeah, just wanted to thanks Park and Recs for the National Trails Day.
Trails Day, yeah.
It was quite an interesting little trip around the Greenway on Saturday. Learned some stuff, so thanks for supporting that. Can't wait for next year. I know we had citizen Eric Cross was really leading that up, and I'm really happy to see her take that role on.
I'll echo what Councilman McNair said. Gons, I think it's amazing, absolutely amazing. We have an EF1 tornado go through the south part of town, and I think our lights flickered twice.
Yeah, he mentioned that.
It's crazy how robust and excellent our electric service is in this town. I know that we also had another failure that earlier last week, but I don't think that had to do anything with the windstorm. I think it was another issue. But you were on that, and it was taken care of within an hour and a half. Again, I would put our electric employees up against any in the region. That includes all the Evergy people and everything else in terms of their response and their ability to keep things running. And I just wanted to thank you and your staff for making that happen in the midst of a tornado, okay? So I appreciate that. The other thing is I've been approached by some folks, both online and personally, about with some concerns about Veterans Park, particularly the vandalism that's happening out there, and some of the destruction of equipment and stuff like that. Is there any possibility we can get something like a monitor, put some monitoring out there to see if we might be able to, at least try to apprehend some of these folks that are doing this?
We do have cameras out there.
We do, okay. But have we?
I have not received any complaints, and I know Mr. Hayes said they're picking up patrol in the parks too. So.
Okay, I know you have a parked car out there a lot, Cap, over by Veterans Park. I'm just wondering.
Park, walking.
Oh, there, okay.
That's one of our officers out walking.
I've seen a car out there also by the Faith Church, that parking lot right there.
Yeah, so then their officers can go out and walk.
Yeah. So, all right. I just want to make sure that's kept up, because I know how much investment the city made on the behalf of the taxpayers on that park, and I just want to make sure that it doesn't fall into disrepair. So, thank you.
Council Vice President.
Nothing tonight.
Council President.
I wanted to just point out, and this is nothing against UConns, say that up front, but from being, on EUB a long time ago and several other directors, the city has done a great job to prepare for storms and such, in the sense that, the tree trimming program that, we're keeping, and the moving things underground versus on the lines above has greatly helped things. When we were doing that years ago, the joke was, well, it doesn't have a problem in my neighborhood. That's because they were underground and the guy wasn't. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that labor, because it is more expensive to go underground. So, obviously, Gon's been here a long time and kept it going, but some people a long time ago came up with some of that too, and I just think that it's great to see that we're actually seeing the fruits of something.
Absolutely.
So, just want to say that.
I did have one item, had some discussion online, and I think it was maybe on social media as well, about fireworks, times for distribution or days for distribution. And, yep.
Discharge.
Discharge, I'm sorry, discharge. And so I did want to present it. There was a question about whether or not it's something we could move the dates to better accommodate weekends. So it would go, he was asking if it'd be something that could go the 3rd, 4th, and 5th days. Keep the same amount of days. Move it over.
Move it up.
Well, so yeah, I assume we all got the same email.
Yeah.
But I followed up with him and chatted a little bit. You didn't get an email? I followed up with him, and he liked my idea of rolling the days, where it depends on if it's a weekend and all that other stuff that I presented when we first did this. And then I explained how the council agreed to set the set dates, because then it would be more clear for the public every year. As you can tell with the confusion that we see on CFG, maybe that isn't working, but it's probably still better than not. I don't have a problem with setting the dates to the 3rd, 4th, 5th. If we were going to look at it from a, purely look at how it impacts people, because the conversation I got into with him was how it impacts people that are, going to work the next day, right? So if you're doing it on the 5th, then that's impacting people on the 6th. Nobody has the 6th off, right? If you do it on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, well, hey, that's not so bad, because somebody may or may not have the 5th off, or they're taking it off anyway, because like this year, right? 4th's on Thursday, a lot of people are taking off Friday, right? So I'm open to conversation about it.
So let me talk about this for a minute. Yes, everybody lean back. It is story time. So,
Grandma Casey.
the Citizens Police Advisory Committee was tasked with giving a recommendation for the dates. At the time, I was the chair of that committee. I know how this conversation went really well. I was overly prepared for this meeting. I had calendars printed out for everybody. If the 4th is on a Sunday, if the 4th is on a Monday, and we can have a whole structure of each year it's different, because this is where the 4th lands. It was the only meeting we ever had a public comment. And it was a public comment of, that's so confusing. It splits things up. You don't know when to clean up. You don't know when not to clean up. Our fireworks stands can't, by our statute, stay open past the 4th. So if you're allowing on the 5th, then you can't even buy anything, and then that's only encouraging people to hoard their fireworks, which then encourages people to shoot them off on dates that we can't even do it. So it was an overwhelming response of all of my calendars just got shredded. We didn't even look at them. What's the point of this? All of our signage stays the same. Our fireworks vendors are like, this is the same. Our fireworks vendors can easily tell people what the dates are. I'm not opposed to relooking at it. I just want to give the history of it. And it was supposed to be set, so it was very clear, signage, everything like that.
Here.
That's the history of the dates of the
And
fireworks.
that's what came up here and shot down my spreadsheet.
Here.
I had spreadsheets too. I was so excited. I was prepared for that meeting.
Well, you guys are numbers geeks or anyway, but second, third, fourth, it's real simple. Okay? And the 5th, even if people are taking off on the 5th, that's fine. Let them have a day to breathe. Okay? After
I feel like this year we're going to do our best, and you're going to do your best with people who are shooting off on the 5th and the 6th
and the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And next year they're going to be like, well, hey, the 4th is on a Friday.
Oh,
Why can't
yeah.
we shoot them off on the Saturday?
No.
And then it.
But we're always going to have
And that was the overwhelming, the response of that CPAC meeting was just quite simply, every year there's going to be a reason to complain about it. So if we have it very clear,
3 set days.
it's, there's no,
Yep, second, third,
and like I
fourth.
understand the reasoning behind it, that's why I came to the meeting with all the calendars.
Yeah.
But it made sense to just make it,
So, let me throw out a caveat. Let's hybrid this thing. So when we
Oh,
first
boy.
did this, it was 4 days. We went down to 3, you know.
That was because of overwhelming citizen response to bring
I
it to
would
3.
say overwhelming.
It was significant.
There's just as many people that want it legal 24/7. But
I thought Rich moved out of town.
not far enough. No, I'm kidding. If you did the second, third, fourth, one thing I had looked at before as an idea was on the 5th, you could do like 9 in the morning until 5 at night. In other words, people are gone to work and it's not bothering people that evening, but anything you had left over, you could get rid of.
well, who wants to shoot
But-
off
or
fireworks
if
in
you
the
didn't-
daylight?
Well, that's the point. It's only your
Yeah.
leftovers that are like, you know,
No.
firecrackers or
It's
something.
just muddy in the water, I think, more.
Okay. Hey.
Yeah, because you
I-
know
I
they're
like
going
it.
to shoot them in the evening.
I mean, I'm fine if we legalize it year round.
Well, you keep in mind too, you have to manage your expectations for the weekend.
Yep.
And the police are gonna have an impossible task.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's gonna shoot them on a Friday and Saturday. And it's just like when they were illegal,
Yep.
they're gonna do it anyway.
Yep.
And then the complaints are gonna come in, and the police are gonna be faced with, we arrest one person when there's 500 people doing it. And we're gonna arrest this person when there's 20 people on the block doing it. And it's just an impossible task.
I don't know that we can make a rule that prevents people from shooting off when they shouldn't around this holiday.
Well, you can't even
No.
if there's a Chiefs touchdown.
No.
But that's why I'm kind of a little bit like,
Yeah.
do it anytime because as long as I would still have a time frame in the evenings, right? But I think everybody just goes gung ho for those few days. They're like, well, it's the only time I can.
Well,
buy.
yeah.
And that's the other thing. It's the only time that there's a stand here, right?
Mhm.
I realize that if it was legalized year round, that even though it is, yeah, you'd still hear it some, probably more than you do now. But there's a lot of people that are too lazy to drive to Missouri to go buy fireworks, about flat out. Okay, so I don't know if it'd be that much worse. But everybody with the stands here, they're like, I'm gonna buy and I'm gonna shoot and I'm gonna go crazy for 3 days.
That's why keeping it those 3 days makes sense.
And I kind of equate it to Halloween. I know there's always a comment on CFG of, are we doing Halloween on the 31st? Because it's a Wednesday. Well, Halloween is the 31st. That's when we celebrate Halloween, trick or treat, or go to a, whatever thing on your own. And, Independence Day is Independence Day. We celebrate it on July 4th, and we don't change it because it's a weekend.
Right. Okay, I sound like we have consensus.
Yeah.
I did want to bring it up, so.
Thanks,
Next
Todd.
year.
We have spent way too much time talking about fireworks the last.
I know.
Yep.
I have nothing further this evening. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion.
Give it to him.
McNear.
McNair,